Hi everyone. We're really lucky to spend some time with Jane Mintz, my guest, because we're going to talk about intervention. We touched upon it yesterday with a fantastic guest, John Southway, who you personally are friends with.
Oh, a very good friend of mine.
And this is a really important subject and role, intervention, which over here in the UK, I think we're really not on the page with. And I'm sorry if that might offend some people out there, but the truth of the matter is this is a really important role. And in Jane's own words, from your organisation, Real Life Intervention Solutions, it's a missing strategy over here, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And I'm hoping that you're going to help us piece together and get a real clear picture of the important role of intervention.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, I think it is a missing strategy. It's not altogether missing, though, because there's some very good interventionists over here. So I don't want to minimize the fact that it is in the UK, but it is not the groundswell that it is in the United States.
You always put it, you guys always seem to put it much better than I do. You're right.
Well, and what we've learned is that there is an entire continuum that an addict goes through, and what is oftentimes missing is the front-end crisis piece. What we've got to do is treat intervention as part of the entire clinical continuum of services. Okay. And intervention is the front piece, and then you move somebody out of crisis and into treatment. Then treatment centers take over, and then you go into aftercare strategies. But what is so fascinating about intervention is it's not only about the individual that's in crisis in terms of addiction or acute behavioral health issues, but it's the entire family structure. The entire family? So one of the misunderstandings of intervention is that it's simply about the individual that's in the addictive, disintegration. It's really about the family too.
Because in real terms, then, the people who employ an interventionist are the family.
That's absolutely, absolutely.
They're the people who put up with our crap and rubbish.
That's
They're the people who listen to all our wailing and tears and all the rest of it.
Right.
We do so many wrong things. They still love us.
That's right.
And they're the people who are trying to help.
That's right. And the truth is that entire system is very sick. And until that system is kind of broken apart and then each piece of it re-educated, the addict will never really do well because they'll be returning to an environment that's still untreated, which is the family. So it's a huge push in the States.
It's widely used, as you said, it's widely used over there.
Yes, absolutely.
For people who really don't understand much of this, and family members watching, watching this show,
yes.
What does your role, when they contact you, could you talk us through a step-by-step normal situation?
Mm-hmm. The phone rings and it will be someone from the family and they say, Jane, we're in big trouble here. My husband is a 45-year-old alcoholic and he seems to be on the computer way too much. So we would, as a clinician, I would take her through an assessment process, get the family on the phone for a big conference call, and we would really try to get an entire understanding of what is really going on and get a good history on it. And then we would decide what is the proper strategy. And what we want to do at that point is take a very fractured family that has lost their belief in themselves, that is disempowered by the addict, that has been held hostage by the addict. And take them through a process, an educational process that re-empowers them and then moves them as a single force with one voice against this disease in the name of love.
Well, okay, and just to pick up on that, the family feels so lost and alone and helpless, don't they?
Completely. And hopeless. Because really everything that they've tried up to that point in time when they picked up the phone call has not worked, as well-intentioned as they've been.
And love just isn't working, isn't it? We're showering our loved ones with love, and it's just not working.
It's not only, but I think that what's even more important about that concept is that there's a very skewed notion about what love really is. Okay. And I ask a family, and this is the greatest litmus test of all, one very simple question. Are you a part of the solution or are you a part of the problem? Because codependency, enmeshment, and collusion with the disease is what families get dragged into because they're terrified that if they don't do something to continue to keep this person connected to the family or whatever the case is, that something horrible is going to happen. If I don't do this, they'll perish. If I don't do this, they won't love me anymore. If I do this, they're going to run off and drive 90 miles an hour through a school zone with the children. I mean, and so that's
because
where
actually anything is possible.
anything is possible. However, when the family decides that enough is enough, that's when the addict changes, not when the addict decides enough is enough. So there's many, many myths associated with intervention, one being that people have to hit rock bottom, they have to be ready to get help. You know, all of that is rubbish, because that's actually what buries people. It's when the family says, not for one more minute are we going to do this with you.
I think the litmus test, you mentioned the litmus test, but I can only speak of my own experience. And I think when you're in that eye of the storm,
yes,
the thing that we keep saying over and over again is, I just want help, I just want help. But we never seem to really get anywhere close
we kind of
to it.
manipulate that statement too.
Thank you.
You know, I mean, we'll throw the family a bone and say, you know I'm sick, but.
Okay, I'd agree with that, yeah, you're
But
right.
the people that are intervention clients sometimes have a lot of stuff clinically wrapped up. They may have bipolar disorder. They may have access to personality disorders, and a lot of times addicts are not even willing to mention, to realize that they're in so much trouble.
I can understand all of that, and to be honest with you, Jane,
That's what an intervention client is.
well, what's really interesting is that when I was in the eye of the storm of my problems, and they were complex and pretty outrageous, none of the people, for as much as they wanted to help me, I didn't understand what was happening with me. And if
Right.
I didn't, the people around me had even
That's
less
right.
chance
That's
of knowing
right.
what was going on. And these are real complex issues, aren't they, that have
Totally.
progressed over a
Yeah.
long period of time.
Absolutely, and people are getting more complex rather than less complex.
It's true.
And people are getting sicker. And if we don't use some of these intervention strategies, and for your audience, I think that one of the easiest ways to understand what intervention is that it changes outcomes. If you must do something. You must do something. You must raise your hand and say, we have a problem here, because for the minute you open your mouth and shed light on the problem, things start to change. You change the frequency that you've been dealing with.
You're really experienced, and I think you want to bring that experience now to the UK, don't you?
I do.
Can we talk about that?
Yes. One of the areas that I love in what I do, I'm a field clinician 24/7. I spend between 15 and 18,000 air miles a month traveling the United States and other
Wow.
countries, helping families in crisis. But more than that, I'm not more than that. Alongside of that, I have developed a training series that I would like to bring to the UK to help other clinicians become interventionists, so that they can use these strategies in whatever piece of the addictive spectrum that they work in.
Yeah.
And it's a great passion of mine. That's why I'm actually over here. The ukesad conference invited me to do a whole day training, and it was really successful and a lot of fun. But what I loved about the audience was that people were really interested.
Oh, I think
It was
yeah.
unbelievable. So it's something that I'd really like to do.
One more thing, and I thought it would be the other way around. There's not enough women in this field, is
Yeah.
there? How can we promote? How can we encourage?
Well, I think that it's like any other field. Men certainly are the front runners in many fields, and then women trickle in. Women are incredibly effective interventionists. They're incredibly effective.
I can't understand that it's not the other way around.
Yeah,
really,
well,
because
I could be completely off, but certainly in terms
I don't
of
think
the
you
States.
are, Jane. You're not the type of person who'd be off.
Well,
Say it how it is.
But what I'm saying, in terms, the interventionists that are over here that I know and that are highly regarded around the world are two women, Rosemary Clow and Barbara Sorensen.
Okay.
And they're right here in London. So that's kind of an unusual thing. I've met a couple of other gentlemen that are interventionists, but on the whole, it's a very, very lopsided scale. There's a lot of women in crisis, equally as many to men. And I have a particular philosophy that I don't really think that men should be intervening on women. That's a highly unpopular philosophy, because
I can understand.
Right. But, women, that are in that kind of crisis have any number of layers of trauma. And much of their trauma and much of their orientation is based on disordered relationships with men. So there's that piece, and I could go on forever about that, but not to offend any men in the business. But,
you wouldn't do that, Jane. It doesn't come
you
across like that. You haven't
door,
offended
George.
me. You haven't offended me. You haven't offended me. We're not offending anybody out there.
No, not trying to.
But what I'd like to just find out, how can we get in touch with you? How can people, because you're going to be really popular over here, Jane. There's no two ways about it.
Yeah.
You've got it all. You're really passionate about it. You're very experienced. That
Thank
comes
you.
across. How are people going to get in touch with you that want to know more?
Well, can I say my website?
Of course you can.
Okay, it's www.reallife, REALIFE, interventions, plural.com.
Okay. It's Jane Mintz, M-I-N-T-Z.
Yeah.
We're going to get those details up on the screen. We're going to take some details off you.
Great.
We're going to promote your advertisements and promote you on our website.
Wonderful.
It's really important that people in your role really start to make progress in this country.
Great, great. And I'll link you to mine, and we'll carry on from there. What a pleasure.
You superstar. What
Thank
a pleasure.
you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.